the conclusion of the morning, I wish to review some special thoughts with you, that you may consider the many aspects of the outer meditation and look at it in relationship to your prescribed practices. Some of you I've shared particular practices with, so you remember and see how you may enhance your skillful methods for the benefit of all those you meet. Human body, it is a precious gift and difficult to obtain, and having such good fortune and living in a place where we have the time to study, it is wise to cultivate a heart of compassion and consider the lesson of the Kogi brother or the elder who lives in a quiet place, generating waves of grace for the benefit of all beings. Without a motivation of compassion, seeing all beings as our relatives, knowledge is information. The application of that knowledge, its purpose is to remind each being that the seed of wisdom is within, and that we have skill sets and methods available to transform appearances of suffering. So on the physiological level, the meditation practice reveals to us certain information about the nadis, the pathways, the meridians within the body, and enhances one's understanding of the emotional states that give rise to certain appearances. Also, we begin to recognize the significance of our words, the choice of words. Our words are the words of invitation and invocation, with a recognition that we invite the wisdom within ourselves and others to flourish and grow through the heartfelt prayer of appreciation. We are revealing and restoring the cycle of relationship, and also repairing the meridians, repairing what may be damaged, appear as damage through whatever causes in our body-mind. So the meditation has practical application. Why? Because we do not live separate from the realm of subtlety. Subtlety arises within us, and all appearances are an expression of that subtlety. So the visualization of the cascading waves of rainbow light is to give you direct understanding of the energy pathways within the body, and also to observe where obstacles, which are your current patterns of speech and belief systems, which may obscure your realization, and then also hindrances, which in a sense are like a limp. They're a little deeper. Why are they deeper? Because they may be part of your interrelationship with the past, and also a dynamic with others. So the practice is to unwind the kinks. So inside those energy pathways, certain belief systems, they become like hooks. And so you think you know something, you think the world is this way or that, and so you're looking and you see, and you're hooked to that belief system. And also with that set of perceptions also comes a set of reactions. And so the hook of preconceived notions can keep one in a circle of repeated activity, and very often the hook is, say, one of my children used to complain about another by saying, "Mommy, make her stop, she's breathing too loud." And she breathed loudly because at the time she had asthma. And I would just look, well, she has to breathe. Make her stop, she's breathing too loud. And so, of course, the one who heard too loud was getting more excited, and the one who was breathing was getting more excited. Until, okay, we all need to breathe, and you move over. You don't have to sit next to her if you don't want to hear it. So that's an example of a hook. Another hook, and I'm referring to children in the family, she's chewing too loud. She's chewing with her mouth open. A bodhisattva is not supposed to talk with food in their mouth. Um, and okay, that's disturbing to you, move over. And so the hook is the reaction. And human beings have periodically displays of habitual actions and reactions. And it also becomes a social norm. We can look at what is going on in the world, and we can think, uh-oh, they're doing it to us again, whoever us are. And the truth is, we are everyone, and whatever is being done is somehow our acquiescence or non-attention to what is right, what is balanced. So the idea of hooks and the chanting literally begins to soften them, changing them, so that one's old reactive states are less and less. And the hindrance can be expressed somatically in the spine being not as straight as it can be. So it is the conditioned view is operating at a deeper level. And so the wise healing practitioner is reminding people of the seat of perfection, so that the alignment is restored. So that's the physical aspect of the meditation's application in terms of the vow of compassion, or transforming, alleviating, ameliorating suffering. Then the most important is recognizing the projection of one's own mind and understanding how such projections arise and how they become certain conditions in our being, and how ultimately everything is fine. And how do we assert that? We basically test it. We begin to look at, okay, who am I? Where did I come from? What am I here for? What is my purpose? Because having the gift of human body and people who have insight, it's not something to waste. And so, why are we here? Why are we born? We can consider ourselves dreamers and explorers. And also, we have a relationship with other beings that appear as discrete individuals as well. And so those other beings, our relationship very much is based upon the similar frequency of the field's exploration. So, simple reminder is how artists inspire each other, or how musicians inspire each other, or healing practitioners talking about new results they've seen or heard inspire each other. So there are circles of relationship, and those circles are very deep and profound, because at that time of stepping from the field, in a sense, we made a commitment that we would be with each other and that we would share with each other all that we learned. So one may have the experience of meeting a person. This is very important. You may have the experience of meeting someone and just, you know each other and you pick up your conversation from where you left off. And that's an example of our family, clan, and national patterns and resonance of relationship. And it is something very precious, because in truth, everything you think you own, it can basically, you can get sued and it can be taken away in this illusory world and the dichotomy of them and us. Yet your good relationship and what you uncover through studying and practicing together, that's a treasure. Those are gems that are never lost. That is the greatest treasure that we have as human beings, the relationships. And so even the ones that seem annoying, the people who seem to arise in our lives that behave aggressively or unpleasantly, even they are, they're basically asking, remember me, remember. So we were taught that there is nothing to defend. And as a young person, I would say, what, do you mean you don't want to argue? You don't want to take them to court? They're trying to take more of your land again. You'll see, we'll get it right, it'll work out. It's not a thing to fight, because if you go through, at least in the South, going through the court system, it was fixed. If you were not white, you wouldn't win. That was how it was. So they knew there were other restorative methods. So that idea of you don't need to defend what is right was challenging for me as a teenager. Like, why don't you fight? And they say, you're just giving them more energy. People will know, our neighbors will come and say, hey, that's always been their land. You can't say it's yours. So by resting in that state of non-defensiveness or equipoise, ultimately it becomes clear what is real through non-polarization. So what arises is very much contrived to manipulate people. There are books written about how to destroy economies, how to destroy groups and individuals, and the internet is really good for that, with their trolls who actually have great pride in their what they think is expertise in defaming and attempting to cause harm to other people. So those underground currents, they are the Maras that seek to keep people locked in a certain view. And they are intentionally manipulated in the media. So now people, CNN wants to know, why have we lost 52% of our viewers? The TV and the cable companies want to know, how come nobody's watching? Because people are waking up and they see, oh, this is just projection, we don't choose to engage. And so that is getting unhooked, recognizing that the Maras, the forces, the energy of illusion, knowing that they have no sustenance, balance, form of their own, they seek to draw energy by dissension. And so we see it being played out as polarization in a big way in North America and perhaps around the world. And so you can see, oh, more argument, not involved in argument, not retreating from the world, choosing to energize what is the ideal. So an example, people have been talking about war, and then families made a point of talking to each other, those who of different nations who thought they would go to war. So did that make a change? I think so, because the projection date is moved, because people heart to heart communicate. So thought forms are energy, and they are created by our appearance of self and have no sustenance. And we can allow them to become bigger by pretending they're not there. Or we can look at them directly and say, hey, you have no clothes. You are not real. And in this way, the illusion begins to resolve into energy of understanding and also methods of communication and reconciliation. Because every being has arisen from the one light, and we may explore it along with different angles or different facets of a vast diamond. And ultimately, we are one in this light. So I invite you again to contemplate the significance of our feeling, our speech, and our mind's vision. What is it, the resilience of the heart-mind, and how may we breathe with the universe? And so this is an inner process, and I invite you first to test it. So if there are any questions, you can ask me. And the method is built upon the rainbow light, the descending rays, and as we are chanting, la 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 la, la 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 la, those stars are moving into us, so that we are acknowledging our spacious awareness and accepting that we are not separate from that spacious awareness. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm trying to get the balance. Concepts and thought forms insubstantial, same time, there's a timeless, limitless core within each that manifests sometimes in form of feeling or matter or structure.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Heart Sutra, we only see that in the relative.
Mm-hmm.
We only understand the relative when we see that.
Mm-hmm.
But as you say, sometimes in the poetry of the heart, we're still, or I'm still trying to get the vibration and the intention and the thought and the word and do something with it, with other people.
Mm-hmm. It's the moments when there is no doing, the moments in which there is no doing and no intention or conception is the taste of what is. Like the musician who practices scales and chords on the piano, maybe for years or whatever instrument they play, and then they become the music.
But it looks like it's something there, illusory nature of there it is.
Yes, I read recently something. Yes, in the relative sense, we observe, there it is, and we taste, and therefore we recognize it is illusory, its dream nature, and also we contribute to the dream by our presence and our observation. So that is the emptiness of form, of which some say there are 16 or even 59 types of emptiness. And here we're talking at the level of string theory and beyond. And it is wonderful to observe and to taste in flash. The sunlight becomes a cacophony of sound, and all voices, all beings are heard, and the sound of the universes is observed like an echo. Someone asked me, are you going to still live out there in the woods and move your wood when you're 65? I said, well, I'm past that, and yeah. And you still carry water, cut wood. You know the dance. It goes on. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back to something you said. I've been really reflecting on the element of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And in many five-element theories, they don't include that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always struck me about the cherokee being different from the Stoney or tessellate. And I wondered, you said something about simple practice with sound, and then you said something about translation and meaning, and that it means that Creator already gives it. But could you just go back to that a little bit?
Oh, talking about Arenene, arene, yo, yona legisqua. I'm about singing the whole song. It's ephemeral. So, Yonalegi is basically the one who gives the breath.
Yeah.
And Arenenea is when there are certain sacred places where the earth breathes, certain caves. And when you sit deep inside these caves, you can hear that sound. And it is a conversation of creation, the earth with the sun and the entire galaxy and beyond. And within the frequency of our hearing, it sounds like it sounds like a chorus of old men singing. It's quite phenomenal. And old men singing. And also before there are earthquakes, you can hear the chorus of old men singing. Once in Huntington, Vermont, I said, this is really too much. Why am I doing this? I could just be with my family and have a simple life. This is too much. If you really want me to do this, give me a sign. And there was an earthquake. So I said, okay. Yeah, it was 5.1. And so the earth is conscious, and we share consciousness. And our action, our thought, our care of one another resonates through the field. And she is quickening her pace as the sun quickens its pace. And our entire solar system has been warming up. Every planet in our solar system, almost as if someone has come along and decided to terraform them. And like some vast mind is saying, hey, we need to make more opportunity for individuation. And so planets are being changed. And this vibrational influx, some speak of as coming from hyperdimensional space. And so Kepler's drawing of the stellated platonic solids, particularly the stellated duodecahedron and icosahedron, were an attempt to show on a two-dimensional, well, actually three-dimensional level, the other dimensions that we are in relationship with. And that became a very important belief system to a mystical group called the Moravians, who also thought some of them were Moravians and Moravians, who thought they were descended from Christ. And in their exploration, the Moravian churches throughout the Americas, and certain places in Central America, South America, and among the Cherokee, they relocated. And they kept very precise genealogies because they were following certain groups. And the Moravians, through their relationship, their type of Christian mysticism, their symbol is, and here I may have one, I think it's a 22-pointed star. So the stellated platonic form, when you then take it out along its edges to points, is the beginning acknowledgement of continuous dimensions arising. Yeah, thank you. So I'll just pass this around so people can take a look at it and hold it up. So that was a mystical scientist who, in those days, science and mysticism and astrology were not separate disciplines. So he was a brilliant mathematician and astrologer and astronomer. And in observing the universe with his inner eye, recognized the steviated polyhedra as an expression of interaction at many levels and many dimensions. So when we're doing the meditation, we're reminded that this human body also exists, or what we call ourself, the appearance, exists in many dimensions. So on a certain frequency of thought, the ninth star is referring us to the heart of our galaxy. And then we're referring to the star of, or the particular constellation, can be Sirius or Pleiades. And then we're recognizing the conversation and part of the conversation between constellations and our solar system and the impact within our body. So in martial arts, there's a whole system of relating to the pole star as a means of massing energy, or the Pleiades. So people understand interculturally the significance of our relationship with multiple aspects of life and matter, and also know that we have a interconnection. I once met some Japanese people who were doing some practices around the Pleiades and the pole star, and we were in an airport. And he was older, and he was teaching a young woman, and it was in Boston. And as he was, and they also looked at me like, okay, we're meant to be here, and we had an understanding. And so here's one of Grandma Honey's tales that my kids say they're going to think you're crazy, and I'm going to tell you anyway. So we're sitting there in this section, waiting to get our flights out, me from Boston to Vermont, and I don't know where they were going. And we were seated like in a triangle. And things, okay, there she is, and there you are, and things started to rev up. Then I saw possible futures of my younger grandsons and children, my son, and walking through the terminal. I saw possible futures of them. And one as martial artists, as different beings. It was interesting. I didn't see any of my granddaughters. It was just the boys or young men. And I'm watching these different configurations, and all the power went out in that section of the airport. And we just looked at each other. I still sat there, they sat there, and then I don't know when they left. So people doing certain practices understand that time is a projection of our minds as well. And the background intention was preserving Japan as the earth changes. That as it is on the edge of a plate, there are many practices and prayers that people say, particularly the Shinto people. And I'd met many before in other ceremonies and situations. So that was that. And that's relating to the conversation, with interstellar conversation. And on a more mundane level, many years ago, I was involved in working with the Native American Treaty Council, and my firstborn was also. And we wanted to bring sergeant elders into the UN, and also there were Japanese Shinto priests who were there with us, because they're a group who are working prayerfully to maintain equilibrium, understanding, and growth, as the Earth and our whole universe is basically moving to a higher key. The song is changing. And so the UN didn't want to let us in. And it was really funny. The two Shinto priests, they looked at me, and at that time my leis were a very large crystal mala. They looked at me and like, okay, we're going to do this. And they took pieces of paper and folded them up. They folded them like sort of an expandable ladder that could contract and expand. They did that, and the next thing I knew, we were inside the gate and they were burning those pieces of paper. And the guards had no idea what happened. No one, we know what happened. So the belief system and the training of the mind make change and benefit. Sometimes people think that magic is power, and that is actually the most dangerous place. You learn about manipulating matter so that you recognize it is not separate from you, it is arising from the field, and every being is one in the field. And many people get hooked there. So the ones who are kept away, the ones who are kept in a quiet place, are the ones who may preserve that direct perception. And I know some who, when they come out in the world, they may forget their open view. Just to have conversation, just to engage with other people, they may forget. Because you change your language and mindset, and then you sort of move into another key or stream. So there was an extraordinary person. He still is extraordinary, but people kind of vilify him. And his name is Leonard Crodog. When he was very young, he could make dead things wake up. He literally would, he had a stuffed dead eagle on a staff, and he would say, if my words are true, this eagle will flap its wings, and the eagle would flap its wings. And he also, because he never learned to read or get into a system of belief, the way he thought and spoke was very different. He did speak English as well as Lakota. And the more interaction he had with people, the more confined his view. It changed him. And I think he's back in the hills, not being disturbed by this divisive view, because certain spiritual people are not meant to be in the world or interact, because you get changed. And so it's like a sacrifice to come out of the cave and say, yes, I know you believe this, so I will talk to you in the way you can understand. Yet we make a vow that whatever method will help people reach the shore, then we will point the way that they can reach the shore. So in truth, there's nothing to do, nowhere to go, just to rest in that natural state. And there is the group, karma, the human group, that explores matter with a certain amount of forgetfulness and is awakening. And we honor that awakening. Because each one is an amazing spiritual being, all the appearances you have direct access to. And then when you know, is there anything to do? Not really. Just to be. And through resonance, it moves out. So you can do particular things. You can see that there is a need for rain, and you can feel the rain upon you, and you can give thanks for the rain, and there it is. Or you may, this is getting to the mental realms of the spiritual practice. That by addressing the ideal, it is made manifest by giving thanks for it, not asking. Some people think they should demand things from the universe. And in some cultures, people think a desire is a good thing. Desire keeps you going in the same circle. Awareness is awakening. So this concludes our morning session. Yeah, have a wonderful lunch. We resume at 3 o'clock. Yes, and please walk around, visit the labyrinth. I will walk the animals at home, or they'll walk me. And lean against a tree. So thank you all for being here, and for those of you beyond the horizon, how wonderful that we're finally gotten it together to electronically communicate via the internet with cameras and all of that. So have a good day. I salute the light in each of you, and see you at 3.
Great Lady of the Buddha family, who holds the secret Vajrayana, in the lotus grove of the teachings of the practice lineage, you are the glory of the Buddha's teachings and the sentient beings, blessed of the Vajradakini. May your light on Ywahoo ever remain firm and long.
lunch.
Good. Awesome.
I'll also just remind people that in the community hall, you can have fun with that. Making shapes.
And I also wanted to announce there's a potluck this evening, or this early evening, at Gale and Roberts. I'll give directions or a ride if anyone wants it. It's going to be around 5:30, so right after the teachings. They have a young child, so it won't go very late. But it's a potluck, and hope everyone can eat it. Cute.
So do you have a kitchen we can use to cook something? You do? Okay.
Okay.
Don't worry too much about it. There's a community potluck.